Hey everyone, it's Nightharo here, and today I have an amazing, insane, unkillable God mode, infinite sustain build for you today. Now listen guys, I've often made fun of those kind of builds in the past because it's never been true. Now with multi-classing, it can absolutely be true. So today's build is absolutely wild. We're going to choose 3 different class skill lines, combine them all and make a truly unkillable tank. You know, for those of you who are wondering what's going on with multi-classing right now, I will tell you that tanks are in the best spot, much better than healers and light years ahead of DPS. Tanks are in an amazing spot as far as balance, as far as being able to choose a bunch of different valid and viable skill lines. So with that, let's actually just go ahead and hop in here. We are going to be starting as an Arcanist for our base. And the reason we're going to be choosing that is because of our class mastery spot there, okay? So we'll go ahead and hop in here. We are on the PTS. So what does that mean? Well, it means that all this could change. So if that happens, first off, check the website. I'll have information for you there, and you'll be able to find the build there if it's updated. And then also check down in the description. If 1 or 2 things changes, I'll put a note of them down in the description or maybe pin a comment, and you guys can read it there. But I honestly think unless they change things for PvP, because it's broken in PvP, which very well could be the case, there's no reason for any of the stuff that I'm going to show you today to actually change. All right, guys, before we even get into the build itself, let me just tell you why this is so amazing. So you can permanently block on this build, never run out of stamina, and never have to drop block. And the reason for that is we've got an insane change. The Restoring Light passive, Light Weaver, has been changed so that we no longer have to drop block when we're casting a channeled ability. And that's going to allow us to use our Dark Deal to get back all the stamina we could ever want. The other thing is, we got a bunch of resistances, guys. We're going to be, we don't have to run any CP for resistances. We don't need to be a Nord for resistances. We don't even have to run, we can run only 5 heavy and still be at resistance cap. All of those things combined. And plus, if you choose an Imperial, don't race change for this build, guys. You don't need to. But if you happen to be on an Imperial or whatever, class, you get even more, okay? Even more recoveries. And if you happen to be on a Nord, that's okay. There's other ways to get even more resistances out of this build. I'll go through that in the resistance section to kind of explain everything to you. But with the changes to the multi-classing coming in, guys, you can make some amazing changes to your build. If you like information like this, and a lot of things too, people will ask, hey, we want to see gameplay, we want to see gameplay. Guys, I stream like 6 days a week and almost only ESO, right? I play other games too, but it's mostly ESO, at least 5 or 6 days a week. And I play every single role. I'm running the new trial tonight. I've ran it, 3 times, 4 times this week. Guys, I'm always on. If you want to see gameplay, check out my live streams. Come by if you want to ask questions live. I'm always there. The other thing, guys, if you like this kind of video, if you like what I do here, don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, but share the video with a friend. And if you really like it, consider becoming a channel member. It starts for just $1 a month and is the best way that it allows me to continue to make great videos just like this. Okay, now guys, the card is the build. Some of the stuff you're going to see, it might not be like all my gear might not be 100% correct. Read the card, check out the card. The card will lead you in the right direction. Okay, so what do we have here? So first off, for sets. Sets are your standard tanking sets. You don't need to run anything different with this build. Whatever is the meta setup, whatever you're asked to run by your group, by your raid lead, whatever you're bringing to a dungeon, that's totally fine, guys. We've done tons of videos on that. So all that is the same. Nothing should be changing for next patch, at least that I can foresee at this point. What about for traits? Well, if you look over here, you might want to run a piece or 2 of reinforced, and that's going to depend on a couple of things. We'll talk about that when we go over resistances in a moment, but generally speaking, either all sturdy if you're a really new tank and you plan on perma-blocking, because you can absolutely perma-block on this build, or for someone like me, I'm pretty experienced. I know what the fights look like. I know what a heavy attack looks like, and I'm pretty good at blocking them. So I'm usually not going to die to those kind of things. I'm going to be running all Divines. Now, that's a 180 from what I've recommended in the past, and that's because, hey, things have changed. The builds have changed. We get a lot more armor. We don't need to run Reinforced anymore. You could also run Well-Fitted if you wanted cheaper roll dodges, but I honestly think that for me, for a lot of experienced tanks, Divines is the way to go. Another quick note here. This build is not the most optimal setup for your group composition. I think it's really good, and I would be happy with anybody bringing this build to any of my raids, and that includes hard mode Dread Cell Reef, hard mode of the new trial, whatever it happens to be, because it does everything that you really want a tank to do. It doesn't go above and beyond. It doesn't bring every buff and debuff it could and make the playstyle incredibly more difficult for bringing those extra buffs, but I don't think that most groups want or care about that, okay? We don't want to give our tanks a lot of times more work to do. a more optimized build, something that is more meta, I'll absolutely do those kind of builds in the future. But right now, we're talking about an unkillable build that still brings all the buffs and debuffs you want to your group. For weapons, front bar, run whatever you want. Running decisive for extra ulti-gen is the more meta thing to do. If you want to run infuse with like a bracing enchant a shielding enchant or something like that, it's a choose your own adventure, whatever you'd like to do. On your back bar, an infused staff with the armor debuff enchantment. For jewelry, so you can change up this build in a few different ways, but I would strongly recommend running 3 infused with reduced spell cost on this build. You're going to be able to get back all the stamina you're ever going to need on this build, and you really don't need to run something like Harmony. And Harmony, while it can be best in a lot of optimal situations with a lot of skilled players and skilled tanks, this is an every person build. And a lot of times, if you try to run Harmony in a very beginner group or even an intermediate group, it is so much worse than just running 3 times Infuse. If you want to do Tri-Stat Infuse, that's also, or reduce cost, that's also fine, but I recommend 3x reduce spell cost. And again, this is not a cookie cutter thing. I'm recommending that specifically for this build in particular. For CP, guys, Duelist Rebuff, Enduring Resolve, Ironclad, and Unassailable. Your flex spot here is typically going to be Unassailable because usually AoE damage isn't designed to hurt the tank, and so you could swap out something like Foresight. Foresight is amazing in certain situations, but honestly, you probably don't even need that on this build because, again, you're just going to have everything you need. That's more of a sustain type of thing and large healing sort of thing, and you're just usually not going to need that on this build because it's awesome. Red CP. Red CP, guys, it's a choose-your-own adventure, okay? Celerity, Expert Evasion, Rejuvenation, I like those. Bracing Anchor situationally is really good. It does slow you down, and that's really bad on certain fights. So I don't recommend it blanket to just, use something like that because of the snare that it applies to you to slow you down. So like Cloud Rest, for example, that's going to cause you to not be able to get across the arena. Something like the Reef Guardians where you're moving a lot, not going to work very well, but Bracing Anchor is otherwise very good. Ward Mastery is also great. There's a ton of red CP, whatever you'd like to use. Slippery, anything can go there. It's a choose your own adventure. We're going to put 64 points into health, just because that's easy to do. Our health, guys, we're going to aim for about 40k health, okay? So we want to build towards 40k health. If you are having too much or too little, what you want to do is typically on your body, you'll have enchantments, mix them up, mag, stam, and health, till you get that health where you'd like it to be. For Mundus, we're going to go with the Atronach Mundus. That's why we might run Divines, because we might want a little bit of extra Magicka recovery. For race, guys, I think Nord, I'm not going to say Nord is dead, but it's laying on the floor. You could do a couple of other things. If you run a Nord, you could probably change up this build even more, but I would recommend Imperial. Imperial gets reduced cost of all abilities, including, Magicka and Stamina, including Ultimate, but also including like things like roll dodging. It's just the best thing with this build. Compared to everything else, it's great. Breton might be another really good choice because you're going to be needing more Magicka. You're going to have more than enough stamina on this build, so you might want to consider going something like Breton. A Nord is also fine. Guys, if you're already on a Nord, don't race change. You don't need to, and especially don't race change now. This is a PTS build, but even when this goes live, you can just change up your build to take advantage of being on a Nord, and hopefully, you're not losing that much, guys. Play the race you want to play, especially now, especially with these updates. You can really do that. Argonian, 4th choice and 5th choice is Redguard, okay? So it's left or right, what I recommend. But again, you could be anything you want. You're going to be just fine on this build. Probably the worst thing is like a Wood Elf because you don't need any more stamina. All right, for food, Orzaga's Red Frothgar is what I would recommend. We want Magicka recovery, want max health. You could also run Jewels of Misrule for a little bit of a cheaper option that gives you actually both recoveries and max health. And then for potion, Tri-Stat health potions just like normal. Our resistance cap, guys, 33,100. That's what we want to aim for. All right, that's what we're going to go for. All right, now let's go ahead and start with skills, right? Let's go ahead and look at this build, the Unkillable build, okay? So all the information on here, I will go over in a minute. We'll talk about all the gear sets, all your pieces on your body, what have you. But most of that it's different on this build than all of other builds. It's not a cookie cutter, so you might want to listen for that part. But let's start with skills here, okay? So, and actually, we'll pop into the game. And we'll so I can show you a few things and what you can mix and match. But just know that this card here behind me, you can actually download this, guys, from the website and have it for yourself. You can also go to the website, mouse over these things. It'll pop up, tell you what the skill is, tell you what the unmorphed version is if you need that, and it should give you all the information you need there. And if anything changes, I'll update it on the website and also drop a comment down below so that you guys know what has changed. All right, let's pop in here. So first up, guys, we're actually going to start. We'll start on the left here. This is going to be a flex spot. Here I have Warding Contingency. And again, it's really nice to be on an Arcanist as our base class, but you don't have to be. The reason it's nice is because if you are using any scribing skills, having Create a Crux as our class mastery, it's just so good for pretty much all roles. But being able to create Crux using scribing skills, it's really good. So you can have that there. You could also swap that out if you really wanted like Gladiator's Tenacity for an extra 8% damage reduction for a few seconds. That's really good, but it's also situational. Most of the time, I just don't think you're going to need the extra mitigation on this build, to be totally honest with you. So that's a flex spot there. You could also run a chain if you wanted to go into the Soul Magic tree and run Leasing Soul. Also choosing Create a Crux as our class mastery. We do not need the Druid's Resurgence for the extra stamina and magicka back. We're going to be plenty fine on resources on this. I will also note that I've got Major Maim here. You could also slot Major Cowardice. That would also be fine. These are all good options, okay? There's not really a worst option. It's just depending on your particular situation. So again, this is a flex spot, though. If you want to put anything else here on your one spot, this is where it go. And generally, guys, when you see my cards and they have a drop down below it, typically that means that's a flex spot. Now, sometimes that's like a taunt, and you always got to have a taunt, right? So it's a choice of taunt, or, maybe a source of, major resolve. Like you got to have something for that. So maybe there's a couple of flex spots there. But generally speaking, if you don't, there's not something that's like a core thing to your build, like a taunt and like, having armor, then you can slot anything there you want or need. So I'm going to leave that blank to make that really clear for you guys. Next up here is Rune Guard of the Still Waters. This is our burst heal, guys. Provides us with minor protection and also minor resolve, and it's our burst heal. So if you get low health, it'll automatically burst you up if you drop below 50%. You can recast this while below 50% to get that burst heal again. So it's a great option here. It's really cheap. It's not expensive at all. Third skill up here is going to be some sort of taunt, guys. Now, listen, I have here Runic Sunder because that's what I'm usually going to be running. If you want a more simple build, or if you're worried at all about keeping up buffs, guys, just run Pierce Armor. Just run Pierce Armor. This will provide major and minor breach, and it is much more important for your build that you have Pierce Armor on, that you have 100% uptime on major and minor breach, than that you generate one more Crux and steal a little bit of armor. Okay, so for me, I know ways of keeping up major breach. We'll talk about it in a second. And so I'll typically be running Runic Sunder so that we can get that extra, Crux generation going. But just know that Pierce Armor is an option. You could also use Goading Throw. It's an option here, but you need to provide major breach. And I don't really think that Goading Throw, it's way more expensive. It's like twice as expensive as Pierce Armor. It's twice as expensive as our Runic Sunder. And so I don't really think it's worth it. I think it's really expensive. Sure, you could do it. If you like to shield throw, it's totally fine. Just please make sure that you've got some source of major breach, okay? So anything you want here, any kind of taunt, it's your option, basically. Just make sure you're getting that major breach, okay? For our fourth skill, I'm using Spite Ward of the Lucent Mind. And the reason I like this is because for every Crux that you have whenever you cast it, it reduces the cost by 30%. That makes this basically free if you have 3 Crux, which we'll often have. I love that for sustain. If you want to choose the other morph, you get a giant shield for the first second, and most people run the other morph, guys. I'm a little bit of an odd cookie here. Whatever you want to run, though, either morph, just run it here. It's our major shield, and it also will, again, with 3 Crux, it'll provide us with like a 14k heal, almost 15k, I think, when we're fully raid buffed. So it's an amazing heal as well as a shield. Keep that in mind. Use it early. Use it often. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and both morphs are totally fine. And again, Spite Ward of the Lucent Mind is what reduces the cost. The other morph does not with the Crux, but it does still heal you and provides an even bigger shield, all right? For our fifth skill here, if you're in hard-hitting fights, guys, and if you want extra magicka recovery, you run Revealing Flare for the major protection, which is always on, always active on that bar. And our front bar is always our damage mitigation bar. And then from passives in the PvP skill line, this will provide us with an extra 10% magicka recovery. And we're going to want more magic on this build. In an ideal situation, we should probably have that. Our last skill here, our ultimate, but I'm sorry, I should say on non-hard-hitting fights, put anything you want here. Or if you're not struggling with magicka sustain, anything you want, here's your flex spot. You could do something like Vamp Drain if you wanted to generate more ultimate, or maybe Trample or something for generating ultimate via major heroism. Whatever you'd like here, this is where it goes. It's a flex spot. And then last up here is Reviving Barrier. Either Morph of Barrier is fine here. Typically, you're just keeping on your bar for those same passives that Flare gave us. So an extra 10% Magicka recovery just for being on this bar, just for having it there. So that's why we like it. Now moving on to our back bar. Wall of Elements. We're always going to choose Blockade. We always want this down. So we have our Crusher or Infused Crusher enchantment, reducing our opponent's resistances. Any optimized group or even non-optimized group is expecting you to have this. Keep that wall down 100% of the time. The next skill up here, Dark Deal. Oh, man. So Dark Deal, we trade Magicka for a ridiculous amount of stamina back, as well as stamina over time. Now, this is a 1-second channeled ability, but as we're going to see, that doesn't mean we have to drop block. I'll explain more in a second when we get to the passives. So this will also provide you Minor Force, which we're not worried about, Minor Zerk, which we're not worried about, but you can cast this to get back just a ridiculous amount of stamina. Just realize it will drop block for a second, but it doesn't have to. Okay, so Dark Deal is why we can perma-block on this build. Next up here, Elemental Susceptible. And some of you guys might be like, what are you talking about? That's a channeled ability. You can't block with a channeled ability. If you don't know, I'll explain in a second. There's been some changes. Next up, Elemental Susceptibility. Guys, this is where we provide our Major Breach, as well as providing the Chilled Status effect, which can proc Major Brittle since we have an Ice Staff on our bar. Now, there are other things you could do to provide more minor brittle uptimes, like running Ruin of the Colorless Pool, but we need a source of Major Breach. So if you're running Pierce Armor on your front bar here, then what all you would do, so let me actually just slot that here, guys, so you can see it really clearly. Then all you would do is probably swap this out for your Ruin of the Colorless Pool. That's all you got to do. That's an option for you there, but you want to make sure that you got Major Breach on. Otherwise, you're losing like 10% damage, which is just massive. Okay, so you got to make sure you got Major Breach. For me, I really like Runic Sunder. I'm probably going to run Runic Sunder, and then I'm going to run Elemental Susceptibility, and I'm just going to make sure that I keep it up 100% of the time, and probably even recast it early to help make sure that I maintain that brittle proc. Okay, depends on how optimized you are in your group and how sweaty you want to be personally. Next up here is Crux Weave Armor. So Crux Weave Armor provides us with our Major Resolve, which we always want on any build, and then also provides Minor Breach. Now, our Wall of Elements, if we're proccing Brittle or Chilled, it's going to provide us with Minor Breach as well in an AoE, but Crux Weave Armor, if they're hitting us, we apply it to them anyway. So it's like we're doubling up on this, but yeah, it's just nice. The other thing is it generates Crux for us. So our shield consumes Crux. If we are using our Crux Weave Armor, that'll generate a Crux for us. If we have any of our, Mage's Guild or Soul Magic, basically any scribing skill that we've chosen in Class Mastery, that'll generate Crux for us. And I really like Runic Sunder to also generate that extra Crux. And guys, I'm sorry, I just realized that I'm such a dork. I'm recording with this overlay on. Let me get rid of it. I apologize there. All right, now moving on after that, our last skill here is another flex spot, guys. You can really put anything you want here. I like Repentance situationally. So it's Repentance, I don't think people know about this because I don't think many people Templar tank, but Repentance, if you have a lot of corpses on the ground and you cast Repentance, you're going to get just a ridiculous amount of healing and stamina back. The stamina is crazy. And not to spoil anything, but the new trial, every single fight you can use Repentance on, and you're going to be able to perma-block even more. There's also a lot of really hard-hitting fights. Dreadcell Reef, even on the hard mode, the first boss, Repentance is amazing. You can hold block there and just get back a ton of stamina and not have to worry about stamina sustain. But I will note, it also gives you minor recoveries, which you can sometimes get from your healers and get in group, but sometimes you're out of group and you're not getting it. So just being on our bar, not casting it at all, even if there's no bodies, it still gives us that extra 15% Magicka stamina recoveries, which is pretty huge, to be totally honest with you. There are other sources of this. You could put it on something like your Mage's Guild, Warded Contingency. I actually have it on here, but you've got a lot of options. But this is a flex spot, guys, okay? So you can put something here. And then, of course, we're typically going to run Aggressive Warhorn on our bar, on our back bar for the group, or whatever else the raid lead would like. All right, now that's only part of the story. Let's look more at why this is so good. Let's actually start here with Restoring Light. Restoring Light, why do we have this skill line to begin with? Well, if we look here, we got Mending, so increases your healing done by 13%, proportion to the severity of the target's wounds. That's a bunch of extra healing if we're almost dead. And, we're going to proc our Ruin Guard of the Still Waters when we're below 50% health, so that's kind of a nice to have, but it's not make or breaking anything. Sacred Ground. While standing in your own cleansing ritual, rune focus, or rite of passage, area of effects, and for up to 4 seconds after leaving, you gain minor mending, increasing your healing done by 8%. That's nice. But the bottom here also increases the amount of damage you can block by 10% for the duration. So what this means is that typically, if we want really hard-hitting fights where we're holding block a lot and getting hit, we would slot something like Extended Ritual. 30-second duration, massive area, and we get an extra 10% block mitigation just for standing inside of it, as well as the little bit of passive heals from the skill itself, and it provides synergies for our party, right? And it cleanses us, so, and a partridge in a pear tree. There's a lot going on here, so we could swap this in if we were in a hard-hitting fight where we're planning to hold block a lot, or we could even put it on our front bar if we wanted one of our flex spots, but typically, this is a nice ability, but I wouldn't like worry too much about this extra 10% block mitigation. Typically, you know, if you slot Bracing Anchor or something like that, you're going to be just fine. Lightweaver, guys, this is what makes the build. Okay, this is the passive that makes this build. Okay, so when you heal an ally under 50% health, you restore ultimate. Sure. Activating an ability with a cast or channel time while in combat causes you to automatically block all attacks at no cost for 2 seconds, up to once every 15 seconds. That's crazy. What does that mean? Well, they actually specified in the patch notes, this does include heavy attacks, which take 1.8 seconds, which is really cool. And I do think we're probably going to want like an add-on with a timer on this so that we can tell when this is up. But what that also means is that, hey, we can cast Dark Deal, which only takes 1 second. We could cast that twice during that 2-second window and get back the equivalent of 7,000 stamina plus another 2,400 over 10 seconds. And it'll actually be a little bit more than that. So like 10,000 stamina once every 15 seconds. Guys, if you can't sustain with that, then we got to talk, okay? That's absolutely crazy. That's absolutely cracked. That's wild. So Lightweaver here is what makes this build where you can permanently block on it. That's what makes it so amazing, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. Now, you could do other things. If you're running out of mag, you could heavy attack and not have to worry about getting one shot by a heavy attack yourself, and do that with an ice staff and get back magicka. There's other skills you can use, but I think generally speaking, you want to make sure, be careful that you're not wasting that proc on something you don't want to be wasting it on, and that typically, if you're running low on stamina, you're using it on Dark Deal. I will also note, for Dark Deal, guys, you can choose the other morph of this. It costs stamina and gives you back magicka. So if you're finding you have plenty of stamina, you could actually remorph this to the other option. In addition to the massive heal it gives you, it'll also give you back magicka in that case as well, but it'll cost stamina. So Lightweaver is what makes this build where you never have to drop block, at least technically. And then Master Ritualist, guys. Resurrecting your allies, return with 100% more health, and it also gives you a 20% reduction in speed. Guys, if you stack this and you use your flex spot here with the banner, with the PvP res time, which is a reduced res time, and you run like Kagranax for like dungeons, you can res in under 2 seconds. So that's another channeled ability, assuming it works how it should. I haven't tested it yet, but that's another channeled ability that you will be blocking. You can be a tank and res somebody and not have to worry about getting one shot. Absolutely amazing. Master Ritualist. If you just use that with a couple of other things, it still reduces your res time. You could swap in the fast res CP, and again, you can res people pretty well as a tank on a Templar, at least a Templar with Restoring Light as one of their class, choices for the class skills. All right. Templar, pretty amazing. The active skills, not using them too much, honestly. It's mostly about the passives here. Now let's move on and talk about Dark Magic. So we're mostly going to be using Dark Deal. You can use the other, morph of this. It basically just changes the cost to stamina and gives you back magicka. That's really all there is to it. There's an argument that there is some situation maybe where you could use Encase, guys, and you would morph that to, to Vibrant Shroud here. I don't think it's needed anymore. I think those days, I just did a sorcerer build recommending this, and I would probably change that now. I mean, it's fine if you're just going sorcerer, pure sorcerer, but on this, combination build, we're really just grabbing Dark Deal. The other things we got down here. Unholy Knowledge reduces the health, magic, and stamina costs of our non-core combat abilities. Core combat abilities, guys, are things like blocking, roll dodging, what have you. So all of our skills reduced our cost by 6%. Absolutely amazing, right? Sustain is what matters. When you cast a dark magic ability, you heal for a lot, so that makes our dark deal heal for like 15k almost whenever we're fully raid buffed, a little bit less in dungeons. Persistence. After blocking attack, your next health, magic, and stamina costs are reduced by 18%. That's ridiculous. Okay, that is ridiculous. I kind of undervalued this, I think, before, and it's actually really, really good. And if we're perma-blocking all the time, because we can, 18% reduced cost reduction is ridiculous. It's so good. And so we have multiple things from this one skill line that are really helping our sustain, in addition to Dark Deal. Absolutely busted. And then Exploitation. When you cast the Dark Magic ability, you grant Minor Prophecy. Guys, if you're the only Sorc in your group running Dark Magic, this is a unique class buff that everybody in your group could use, okay? So you might want to just cast Dark Deal every 20 seconds just to make sure that this ability stays proc, this passive rather stays procced. Okay, and guys, I'll also note if you have a Templar leveled or you have a dark magic, a sorcerer leveled for dark magic, you could use one of these other skill lines as your base and run on a Sorc or a Templar. You're just going to miss out. Really, it's really just all about that class mastery script, okay? Now, Soldier of the Apocrypha. As you can see, we might want to use all of these skills. We're going to use Crux Weave. No reason not to. We're going to use a shield, Spite Ward, one of the morphs. Both are fine. We're going to use Rune Guard of the Still Waters as our burst heal. We're optionally going to use Runic Sunder, optionally going to use Rune of the Colorless Pool. If we want, something for more, survivability, we could use either morph of this Gibbering Shield here. One will put shields on our allies, the shelter, and the other one will provide us with a bit more shielding. It's up to you guys. Honestly, I don't think you're ever going to need this on this build, but it's there maybe to shield your allies. It's there if you want it. Aegis of the Unseen. This gives us over 3,000 armor, guys. This is what makes it where we don't need to be on a Nord, and we really don't need any reinforced armor, okay? Aegis of the Unseen, it's gotten a huge buff, and it's increased the value by, I think, was it over 1,000, I believe? Yeah, over 1,000. And then Wellspring of the Abyss. This gives us extra recoveries based on how many skills of this skill line are on our bar. Just nice to have. Again, recoveries being a great theme. Minor evasion for the group. We always have that because we always have an Arcanist. And then a bit of extra ultimate generation here, which we're not too worried about now. Guys, this build is absolutely ridiculous. Now, let's talk about armor here. So we're going to buff up. We're going to buff up real quick. And let's look at our armor. We're at 3,973. Now, if we are running Runic Sunder, this will give us 2,200 armor. Well, 2,200 armor added, and slotting it's not going to do anything, but if we actually used it, will put us over the resistance cap here, guys. It'll put us at 33,100. That means that, and if you look here, I'm not on a Nord. Okay, I don't even have my passive slotted. We're not on a Nord. We don't need to be on a Nord. And then the other thing that's cool, because one of the things that's been an issue is that you would look at CP and there would be some sort of armor CP here, and you can see that there's actually none. We don't need to run any armor CP. We don't need to be on a Nord, and we're over the resistance cap. It's just because of the buffs. Arcanist was already crazy with the armor, and it got buffed even more, so here's the situation we're in. If you look at our armor, and my armor is going to be a little bit jank because it's just what I just do on some stuff. It's almost all sturdy, some well-fitted on accident, infused on accident, but most of it is sturdy, okay? And you actually look here, guys, I'm running 5 heavy and 2 light, and the reason I'm running 2 light is for extra Magicka sustain. The light armor passes will provide us with more Magicka sustain, which is really what we're going to want on this build. So more Magicka recovery, reduce Magicka cost. If you want to run 5-1-1 with 1 medium, that's also fine. But again, we're going to be at resistance cap. Now you might say, well, Nighthawk, what if I'm not running Runic Sunder? Because you said, hey, what if I want to run a more simple build? It's easy, guys. All you got to do is probably the thing I would do. If you're on a Nord, you're still not going to need to run Runic Sunder because Nords provide 2,600 rather armor, so more than our Runic Sunder would provide. So you're already still going to be way over. But what you can do is just come here and where is it at? Yeah, Fortified, slot Fortified here. And you can slot it out. These are all flex spots. Here, what would I slot out? I would probably replace Bastion here because while it's nice to have bigger shields, it's not really necessary most of the time. But you've got a lot of options. Whatever you want to swap out there is all good. If your recoveries are fine, you could swap that out. But if we swap out that CP, we're going to find that, hey, guess what? We're still in like a really good situation. We're almost there. And then all you're going to have to do, you have a couple of choices. You could swap in You could swap in a piece of heavy armor so that you're only running 6 heavy and 1 light. Or, and actually that's a shoulder, it should be a head because that would provide us with even more resistances. Or just slot 1 piece of reinforced on one of the larger pieces and you're at cap, guys. Okay, I mean this is like a cut like 8 below. You're basically there. Okay, 660 is 1%, so being literally 8 below, it's a pretty small number there. Okay, so that's how you get to resistance cap. It's really easy to do, and the whole point of this build is that you're at cap and you got just ridiculous number of things that will reduce the cost of your skills. I mean, Runic Sunder for 875 stamina, Spite Ward for just over, like 3,200. It's absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, guys, that is it for the build. I mean, hopefully this is helpful for you. Everything there, it's absolutely amazing. I love the changes that have come to ESO with the multi-classing, at least for tanks. We got a lot of work on the DPS. Healers are in a pretty good spot, but tanks are in a baller spot. There's a ton of options you can do. And you know what? If you want to swap out these skill lines, one of these skill lines, and do something else for yourself, you're absolutely able to do that. Play with it, have fun. I just think that this is an amazing build that is completely unkillable, and you can absolutely just perma-block. If you went with all sturdy, you're just going to be able to just hold block, really, guys, and then you can hit periodically cast Dark Deal twice in a row, and you're not even dropping block. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this and more information on the PTS, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks everybody for watching.